Krishna Mistry. Okay, I will, since now we are on live stream, let me start the program. Today's topic in operations management is Unit 10, which is on environment, ethics, technology, and contingency planning. Well, these are many of these are connected and not connected, but then these are, you can call, supplementary topics in this operations management. And let me start sharing screen. Okay. I hope the others will also join. But, yes, I'm sure you can see the screen.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah, Unit 10, which is on environment, ethics, technology, and contingency planning. Okay. Oh, I have put it as 10th July. Today is what? 12th July. Okay, let me correct it quickly. I'll correct that later. Okay, not an issue.
No issues, sir.
No issues. Okay.
No issues.
No, okay. Inside this, the topics which we'll be covering are adapting to external forces, greening the environment, maintenance of the greening the environment, design for disassembly, we'll see what it is as we go by, ethics and production and operations management, preparing beyond OM for the future, environmental quality with respect to ISO 14001, and what makes your organization a fully integrated global company. So these are the topics which we'll be talking today. And I will straight away get into the adapting to the external forces. Basically, like, I don't know whether it's a Shakespearean quote or something. He says that no man is an island. You can understand what is an island. Island is a piece of land surrounded by the sea on all the sides. Okay. Like in India, we call it a peninsula. Peninsula means on three sides there is sea and one side there is land.
Yes.
So island is one where it is. So the saying which everybody probably would have read even in your school is that no man is an island. The meaning to say that you can't say that you are working in an environment which will not affect you in any way. However much insulated you are, external forces will constantly keep impacting you, and you should be prepared and not only plan for things which are going to happen. Just like you know very well that we are now entering the monsoon season, at least in some parts of the country, or rather most parts of the country. So obviously, when there is a monsoon season, you get prepared, you get your raincoats out, you get your umbrellas out, you probably get your shoes out, which rain shoes or gumboots or whatever, depending upon which part of the country you are in. And also prepare yourself in an evening, like they say, when it is a nice rainy, cold evening, garam garam pakode and chai, is a good thing to have, So, or butta with, roasted on the coal. These things normal, correct, no?
Yes, exactly.
So you feel that, these are the things. So you know that certain things are going to happen. But at the same time, you are preparing for a monsoon, but then instead of monsoon, you get a tsunami coming in. That definitely you are not prepared. You see, like right now it happened in the Amarnath Yatra, which happened last week. There were, the people were prepared for everything, but then there was a landslide and then a lot of people lost their lives and etc. Although that happens sometime, but you know, sometimes it happens more than what you anticipate. So a manager, when he's working inside inside the organization, especially an operations manager, is not insulated totally from what is happening in the external environment. And to that extent, you would like the manager to be prepared, you as a manager to be prepared and anticipate those changes which happen. So the role of a manager is to monitor and shape the internal and external environments and to anticipate changes and react quickly to them. While we know how to react to changes which we plan or hope to happen, at the same time, there are some things which will happen without your knowledge, yes, like a sudden power outage which happens, or due to a heavy rain, there is the uh, the entire power in your area is gone, and then it will take 3 days to come. No, these are situations which you don't anticipate. Could be an earthquake which happened in Bhuj. I think we all know, since some of you are from the Gujarat side, the Bhuj earthquake which happened
Yes.
on I think on the 26th January of 2000,
One, sir. One,
2001.
or two.
No, I
One.
remember well because, in fact,
Yes,
one
sir.
of my father-in-law's factory is in Kandla Free Trade Zone. And, in Gandhidham, Kandla Free Trade Zone. And that factory was actually broke into two. Fortunately, there, it was not a working day because it was 26th January and morning time. And so there was no loss of life. Although, of course, many people lost their belongings, buildings, so many things happened there. Of course, everybody knows about that earthquake. There is also a movie now recently come on that, the kind of thing, documentary kind of movie. So these are something which you don't anticipate, but when it happens, then you'll have to quickly react to such situations. So in my case, in my father-in-law's unit, what happened was, fortunately, they didn't lose. It is a press kind of a shop where huge presses. And what you need to be in business is the dies which which make those shapes which are there. Fortunately, they did not lose any of the dies. They're quick enough to move these dies to subcontractors, and then within a few days continue to be in business. Now, that is the resilience a person expects from an operations. Things do happen, but then you can't just keep it. And in the meantime, you get it took months together to put back the building and some of the damaged machines and all that kind of thing. So it is for you as a manager to ensure that either internally or externally, or when anticipated or not anticipated things which happen to be, you need to react quickly to them. Now, external environment factors are elements that exist outside of the company's internal environment that can affect a company's operation. External environment factors can be many. Uh, it could be the power, it could be water, it could be the political situation which is there out there. It could be the social factors which are there. It could be the weather. It could be a lot of things. These outside forces can help the business or present challenges for the current processes. So managers often keep track of the environment, external environment factors, so that they can recognize and resolve the issues the factors cause and make appropriate changes. The first thing in any management is to be aware of, categorize them, and understand the severity of the impact of these in how it affects your operations, and foresee these and keep things ready to react to situations when it happen. Preempt, of course, wherever possible, but at least react whenever things which happen. So let us see what are all could be the external environmental factors. In fact, long back when I was teaching something like on this subject, there were only 6 we could talk about at that time, but then we are having 9 today. In fact, I had coined a short form called PESL. PESL in the sense, PESL is a container in which you grind the masala, kind of thing. That was easy to remember. And pestle and mortar. Mortar is the one which you grind, and then the pestle is the container in which you put the masala to grind. Pestle meaning political, economic, social, technology, legal, and environmental factors. Of course, that is expanded to 9 factors or things which impact your external factors that impact your operations. Technological factors, if you have to see, how does it affect? In most cases, even if you see today, at least I have myself personally seen computers from the age when the very first PCs came into the market. We used to call it as a PC XT. And then came the Pentium chip. And then, of course, then it came thing. And even the operating systems were undergoing major changes. Whenever changes happen, the changes are supported initially for up to a certain stage. And after that, even the people who provide the technology says from so and so time onwards, this old technology cannot be supported. So you'll have to migrate to the newer technology. So today you cannot say that I have a phone instrument which is a dial instrument and say, no, I'll connect it to the lines of the telephone exchange and then it has to work. No, it won't work because that current technology doesn't support a dialing type of telephone. You can at the most keep it in your drawing room as a showpiece, but not use it for making a call, make or receive a call. So technology is something which is constantly changing, and you need to continuously keep in pace with what is happening in the technology. And similarly, if you're talking only of one, in terms of there are many other things on the shop floor where we are using technology. For making anything and everything, there is a technology, and it is imperative that you keep in touch with the changing technology, at least to the extent that it need not be something immediate, but it should be that before it becomes your present usage or technology doesn't become totally obsolete, right? It is like I remember one of my chartered accountants who was there with me was doing my work for a very long time. He's from the old guard, He did not even use Tally for, for a very long time. He was sticking to his old system of bookkeeping and all that. In today's world, you cannot do that because even the government does not accept the books in that form. It's like otherwise, like talking about the share market, I am still having some of the shares, but then they're all privately held shares. If today, if I have to trade in the market of the thing, I cannot trade the way which was being traded 20 years back. Everything has changed after Harshad Mehta, So now we have the DMAT system and you have to compulsorily follow the DMAT system. So similarly, technology in everything what you do is changing, and there will be only a small time element from the time when the technology is introduced and fully adopted. During this period, sometimes it can be 6 months, it can be, a year or maybe even a couple of years. But within that period, you as a manager should should understand the new technology, learn the new technology, use the new technology, and follow the new methods as per those technology. So this is something which is imperative. Like I have seen myself an electronics engineer from 50-year-old. I can't say that I will continue to talk about what I have studied 50 years back. I have to be abreast of what is happening today and which continues to keep changing. So technology is something which is totally imperative, and we have to keep foreseeing these changes apart and also keep adapting to these kind of things. Next is the economic factors. See, economy today is not something which is not in your hands. Let us look at what happened in Sri Lanka. Did anybody of those industrialists in Sri Lanka, did they ever think that this kind of a thing will happen? No, it is not their doing. Or for that matter, what is happening in the neighboring Pakistan. What is happening in, let us say, in Russia, for that matter, or what is going to happen in Germany now because of the Ukrainian war. Because Russia is going to stop, already they have taken a maintenance breakdown on their gas supplies. That is only a ruse. Shortly, they will stop supplying gas. And then when the gas to Europe stops, they will have to buy it from somewhere else, which is again not easily possible. Oil we can buy, but what about gas? Huge impact on the economy of those kind of countries which are there. War impacts economies in very big ways. Similarly, like any kind of things which happen in the neighboring countries, and because today is a global world, so things change. Sometimes it is to an advantage, sometimes it is not. Even the COVID also we saw impacted the economies of many countries and even our own. While some sectors flourished, especially the health-based sectors flourished, many other manufacturing, automobile, they all were in doldrums. So economical factors is something which one as a manager should constantly be looking at to see how it impacts your operations. Of course, we will not talk about the country as a whole, but at least your own technology, your own operations and how it impacts should be looking at. The third factor is the political and legal factors. Political, of course, normally we say, at least in a matured democracy like in India, we can say that a change in the political system will not immediately impact any operations. There can be some long-term impact, but like a company which is what is called as a going concern, similarly, our economy or the political system, although there can be like a change from in 2014, which happened, or the change which happened in 2004, there were major changes, but it does affect not immediately, but definitely in the long run. And the decisions taken by some of the socialistic pattern will be different compared to what is happening on the the conservative governments. Legal factors, law is another thing which one thing we have seen is that we have been seeing a constantly changing environment when it comes to legal issues. Of course, the government usually says they are liberalizing, but every time there is a liberalizing, then we find that it takes a long time to adjust. Everybody knows what happened during demonetization. Everybody knows what happened during the GST transformation from the old type of taxation to the new. It took a very long time to stabilize. Even now, people are struggling. Right. Now, another new factor which has come even just yesterday is that the government took out the compulsion that we have to trade only in the US dollar. The notification has come, is dated 11th yesterday, that you can opt, of course, subject to certain permissions and conditions there, you can opt to trade internationally with rupee. Now, what it means, we have to see. But then the government comes with a notification. How is it going to impact you and your business? Demographic factors. Of course, demographic factors are not sudden changes which happen, but then there are gradual changes in demography in and around the place in which you operate. People keep migrating from agricultural to an urban. People keep migrating from other areas of the country to the place where you live in. The age group of working population has an impact, and depending upon your population growth in your own area, you will find that there are changes which are taking place. You may no longer be able to get the aspirations of the people may also be in such a way that you may not be able to get the labor which you need, because everybody's aspirations goes from working on a machine to maybe working on a computer. So demographic factors, and then male-female ratio. In fact, it is during my time, it was very difficult to even see a single lady engineer anywhere. But today, or a manager. But the latest statistic which we saw just a few days back, which says that 1/3 of all the MBAs in IIMs are ladies. I can't even imagine that kind of a situation when we are doing our MBA. So things are changing and changing very fast, So demographic factors are something one needs to keep in track. Also, sometimes, certain kind of jobs which we say that, it can be done only by mail or whatever, those are also changing, you see. So you have to accept that and then be ready for those changes in your workplace. Social factors, of course, this is in many ways linked to acceptance of changes in social norms in the society. That is what one has to see there. Competitive factors. Competition is the biggest leveler. in any business. In the sense that the more you drive change in what you do, the competition will also is working at those kind of changes. That is why if you see that some similar type of models of cars, all of them come out at the same time. How is it possible? I always used to think, how is it possible that everybody comes out? Because everybody is working on certain technology or certain changes or how they perceive the market and the customer, and then working on it to come up with new models, new products, new offerings. So competitive factor is something which, and you have to constantly keep looking at what the competitor is doing with respect to what changes you are coming up with. Global factors, of course, we are today in what we call as a global village or internationally. And whatever happens earlier we used to say when Uncle Sam, that is a US of A, sneezes, the world catches a cold, which is no longer true. That it not be Uncle Sam, it can be anybody. It could be China, it could be Russia, like what we have seen today. It could be some place in the African continent which actually mines copper, and then that country, there is a problem, and the entire supply of copper stops or gold. And in today's where the sourcing of materials are from different parts of the world, even one particular source is not available. It impacts the supply chain across the entire world. So global factors are very important. Ethical factors, of course, they do not have a short-term impact, but then the ethical norms keep evolving, and what was not, of course, when you talk about ethics, we'll be talking about it a little later in today. What is considered ethical may not be acceptable somewhere else too. In fact, I was just looking at one of the forwards in the WhatsApp, which happened just a few days back, in which the Chief Minister of Delhi, he was addressing a group of people in Gujarat. He has been promising free electricity, free water, and it is on this basis, one of the things which made him to win in Punjab. See, a lot of people in this world fall for this free thing, free this, free that. And in this particular video forward, which I saw, that he was asking the group of people in Gujarat, do you want free electricity? He expected the crowd in there saying that yes. And to his shock, the crowd was saying, no, we don't want free. Now, it shows that the makeup of the people from different other parts are different. The people there must be saying that I don't want free, but I want value for my money. In fact, that is why Gujarat is different from many parts of the world. Huh? What, Divyang? Correct, no?
Yes, sir.
Huh, Titi?
Correct,
Yes.
sir. Correct.
Correct,
Yeah.
sir.
हमको मुफ्त में कुछ नहीं चाहिए हमको, हाँ? But जो
We
पैसा
need
देता है
value of money. Yeah.
उसका पैसा का value चाहिए हमको, right?
Correct.
Correct. Whereas people in most other places, they don't care. They just want things free. They get free electricity, but the thing is, वो दिन में 10 घंटा power नहीं है तो क्या फायदा? Here I would rather pay and get 24 hours, electricity. Correct. So these are different in different places. You see. In fact, I will tell you when this same thing we were talking about, this Bhukam which happened in Bhuj. हमारा Mysore से we had sent I told you my brother-in-law's unit is there in Gandhidham. So the Lions Club of Gandhidham, we tied up with them, and from Mysore we sent about 5 truckloads of many necessary, including clothes to utensils, many things, which all we could collect. And after some 4 days, 5 days, it reached Gandhidham, and one of our people had also gone, taken a flight, gone there. And along with that club, we were trying to distribute. Anywhere else, if you see, whenever somebody is giving free, they will come and then pounce on that thing and try to grab whatever maximum they can take away, But to their utter surprise, they found that people just took something, whatever they actually need, and nothing more. No, it gave a big lesson, that the people in there, it is like a people in Japan, because I say, they are so disciplined in that. But not so in many other parts of the world. The moment you talk about free, they will just go and grab, whether they need it or not, correct. The question of greed comes there, the makeup of the people. So these are some things which are different in different parts of the world, right. Then, of course, the last but not the least is the natural factors, which relates to the environment, right. Environment, it is very simple that you don't disturb the environment will not disturb you, right. That we as a culture, we have understood from thousands and thousands of years, but the world has not understood. We have become greedy, we exploit the environment, and the environment takes its own toll on this, due to, look at the kind of rains we are having, look at the kind of calamities which are happening around the world. Every year it is only increasing. So the necessity to take care of the nature is something is there, and that we have to factor in our operations. So these are all the external environmental factors which impact and which we must be aware and take care while in the operations what we are doing. I thought, this is not there in the course, but I thought that, I will show this slide only for the simple factor that not only in operation, but in business, as a business, there are 5 forces which continuously keep impacting your operations. This was a person called Michael Porter who had evolved this, and so it is called Michael Porter's 5 forces, which is constantly bombarding on you and you're working in the organization and has an impact on whatever you do. In the center of the forces is this rivalry among existing competitors. You see, I always had in my opinion, kind of thinking that you must have constructive competition, not destructive competition whenever you are there, which I am sure most people in Gujarat will also understand. Most people in Bombay, because I myself have spent a lot of time in Bombay, during my early days of life. I've seen the market, worked with the market there. It is always constructive competition. Nobody goes to destroy that. Destroy in the sense that, some person brings the price down, the other person brings the price further down, then, all that kind of thing. Ultimately, everybody dies. That doesn't work. But the factor that the rivalry exists is something which you should be aware of, of the existing competitors. Driving that is a threat of new entrants. Of course, in no place can you say that, new competition will not enter. New competition can be from your own neighborhood. It can be from other states. It can be from other countries. It can be from online today, right? So there are many ways in which new entrants to the competition takes place. Now, these new entrants can be taken care of by barriers to entry. Of course, trade associations ensure this kind of a thing. You yourself, if you have high economies of scale, then you can prevent new entrants. Create a strong brand so that there is a brand loyalty among the customers whom you buy. Keep the capital requirements high so that the entry is not easy. Have a cumulative experience. The government policies can be in favor of to ensure that it takes care of the existing business. Access to distribution channels. If switching costs are high, then it prevents by entry. If switching costs are low, then more and more people will come in. Then you have the bargaining power of the buyers. See, this is one thing I always used to say is that any product, however special it be, tends to become a commodity. When we say a commodity, we talk in terms of the unit breaking down the value into a certain unit. See, if let us say, if you're buying, let's say, rice or wheat, there are different, right? From, let us say, basmati rice to the Sona Masuri rice, there are different levels of rice. But you know exactly how much you will pay for that. Just because somebody says 25% more, you're not going to give him, even though it's very good. He may be your best supplier or whatever it is. You will bargain pie for pie up to that to get the best price, because you know what the price is, and you being a buyer, and there are the seller has only limited options to sell to the number of buyers. You have the bargaining power. So the bargaining power of the buyer comes from the number of customers, because ultimately that is limited. It can't be infinite. Then size of each customer order, how much they buy every time. Differences between competitors, the price sensitivity, buyer's ability to substitute. Of course, if rice becomes very expensive, you may go for millets, or you can go for wheat products, all that, kind of. Buyer's information availability and switching costs again. Now, the third thing which can happen is a threat of substitute products. If the current product becomes difficult to get, or if technology keeps changing also, there can be products which are, it's like let us say there is a metal, something which is available. Now that can be substituted by plastic, it can be substituted by, let us say, wood. So there are substitute products which may be available. So the number of substitute products which are available, the relative price performance of the substitute, and what is the product differentiation, and ultimately again coming back to the switching cost. The switching cost is low. If I'm only using a pen, let us say I'm using a thing, I'm now somebody comes up with, let us say, a paper pen. So I can switch over, because after all it is only writing. The switching cost is zero, literally. But whereas if I am changing, let us say, from a petrol-driven vehicle to electric vehicle, the switching cost is not easy. You will have to make a charging station at home. You have to have a charging station at wherever you go. Ensure that the switching cost is high in these kind of cases. So, like transition to electric vehicle, let us say you take that as an example, the switching cost is high. It is not low. Unless the infrastructure is built right through, that even if suppose the vehicle stops en route, like here, when the vehicle stops at the most every kilometer, you have a petrol bunk to go to. Now, do we have that kind of a thing now? No. So unless the infrastructure is built for the whole thing, then people will not easily switch over from petrol vehicles to, let's say, electric vehicles. But they may use it only for short distances. Finally, the bargaining power of the supplier, right? Bargaining power of the supplier. Ultimately, every product which you manufacture or every process which you do, there is somebody, you need an input. That input can be in the form of a raw material, consumable, component, sub-assembly, whatever it is. So, world over, big countries, big economies control supplies. You see, like today, the biggest control is the Middle East is controlling the oil. Russia is controlling oil and natural gas. The South African mines control the copper. Now, recently, I think one country, I don't know which was that, Uganda or something, apparently has found huge deposits of gold. Now, the supplies which they, once somebody knows that he can control the switch by supplying or not supplying or reducing the quantity of supplies, he is bound to do it. That is the usual market forces which happen. Just like I told you, now Russia has understood that all it has to bring Germany to its knees is that to stop their supply of heating gas. The winter is coming, already setting up. Now they need heating oil. Now, a lot of units are depending on the gas supplies from Russia. They can't go for substitute so easily fast. It is not like oil which can be brought in by ships. So now, so Russia is going to take that as a bargaining point, as a supplier of those single item which is there. So similarly, like in India, we export certain things to our neighboring countries. We also sometimes can control the water which is flowing into it. Why are we now trying to build bigger and bigger dams in the north? We know for well that once that is done, we can control the water flowing into the other place. So whether it is a supplier or a company or a country, it will constantly keep ensuring that they have the bargaining power for supplying whatever they need to do. So I thought that you must understand these 5 forces which constantly keep working on in any operations, starting with the rivalry among the existing competitors to the threat of new entrants, bargaining power of the buyers, threat of substitute products, and the bargaining power of suppliers. This you must keep in mind in any operations. Okay. Now, the next topic which we saw there are 5, 6 of them, is on the greening of the environment. Today we know that all operations in whatever we do is producing waste, and that waste is in many forms and is creating impact on the environment. So we have to ensure that whatever operations we are doing, it keeps the environment green. I was just talking to an architect just about 2 weeks back, and I was asking him, what do you mean by green building? You must have heard this technology word called green building. We are doing that. Sometimes we think that, oh, building ko green paint kiya to green building ho jayega. No, he says, no, it is not that. When we talk about green building, we mean a whole lot of things. See, to start with, let us say, I am building, let us say, a house or a office or let us say, institution in Ahmedabad. Okay, let's say I am Ahmedabad is coming up with a new building there. How does it qualify for it to become green? Number one is to say that all the materials which are going into making that building comes locally. Now I asked him, why should that be? He said, very simple. If I have to transport, let us say, Italian marble, or even for that matter, from Athangudi tiles from South India, or let us say some Pozzolano cement from, let's say, France, the amount of transport which is incurred on getting that material from there to their local place is very high. So much of transportation, and this transportation is throwing up a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So first thing he says that when you talk about green building, is to use all local material, locally available material. I said that made sense. Yes. Obviously, it will be cheaper. And when you do an architecture, the architecture varies, like in my Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, where I'm studying, we get a lot of, quarry stones. Now, if you see our entire 100-acre campus of Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, it is all stone building. And all stone is available locally. They are not being transported from miles together or whatever it is. So obviously that. Second thing, of course, is that you use the design in such a way that there is a natural ventilation. You don't use too much of artificial light. And also do not use air conditioners. Instead of that, you can situate your windows, doors, whatever it is, and the draft of air in such a way that there is a natural draft. In fact, there is a building called the Institute of Quality in Bangalore, where there is no ACs at all. In fact, that building is designed by Asia Brown Boveri, the same ABB which is in Baroda, there is a ABB in Bangalore. Now, ABB Bangalore has donated that building, got that building done, and it's beautiful. It is the location itself is in a very kind of a raised place, and the construction in such a way that the air from the bottom flows continuously to the higher floors and keeps the entire building cool. And there's no need for any kind of an air conditioner, even in a very hot day in the year. Because Bangalore these days do get very hot, sometimes, many parts of the year. So green building means that. Green building also means that you recirculate all the water which you use, so that your hand wash water gets into the making the gardening, and if you got any process which uses of water that is processed and used, kind of water is a scarce commodity. of course, for us sitting in Mysore, where the Kaveri flows, we may not know the why there is water scarcity, but then downstream you'll know. And for you in sitting in, let's say, places like Kutch, you know how scarce the water is. Incidentally, I think just a few days back, the Narmada water has flown into Kutch, right? I saw the news somewhere that the 750-kilometer long, I think, canal has finally opened up, and the water has Narmada water has flown into Kutch. Of course, I think coinciding that with Medaji was arrested, no, a couple of days back, right? Anyway, these are politics and other things. But then, as I said, so water being reused is something which is greening. Ensuring that you have a lot of plants and trees around your place, which keeps the place cool, brings in the natural fauna. You should see the campus, our campus in Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. Beautiful, or for that matter, Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. Full of trees, huge trees, beautiful gardens, flowers. So the greening also means the typical green, and ensuring that the forests don't dwindle. There is forest cover everywhere. And today we even talk about urban forests. There are many ways into creating urban forests. Using different technologies for growing plants, including, let's say, hydroponic and many other, kind of technologies. Drip irrigation, which was introduced by Israel. Dry places like Kutch and other places could use drip irrigation to do that. So greening means a whole lot of these things. So green management is a paradigm that includes improving environmental awareness, using energy resources and eco-friendly technologies, reuse of waste, and recycling activities starting from production activities of businesses to packaging and delivering to consumers. In many places, if you've seen, the packaging material is recycled. They get back and then reuse the same thing. And, or, of course, today, even the paper which is used for packaging is from recycled paper. You have that sign which says, 3 arrows, each pointing to the other. That's the,
That forms the triangle, sir. And that's green in color.
Yeah, correct. Green in color, and the 3 arrows which are bent arrows which going around. That is a recycling of the things. So you need to constantly keep looking at how to reduce waste and then reuse waste. Of course, in olden times, our village economies, we were doing all that. But slowly and slowly, consumer economies were creating a lot of waste. And now, with so much of plastics getting into the groundwater, getting into oceans, and creating havoc everywhere, we now know that we have to ensure that we reuse the waste and bring it to. So energy efficiency is the cornerstones of green maintenance. You see, energy is scarce, number one. And if suppose we are using, let us say, the oil, in terms of oil, when I say petrol, diesel, as energy, that's a non-renewable energy. One day we are going to run out of things. One day the Middle East is going to run out of their oil. It's not very long, after all, it's not going to be very long. It could be another 100 years, maybe, but 60, 70, 100 years, maybe. So we cannot afford to be energy inefficient in whatever we do. In fact, we were one of the very few in long back, maybe 25 years back or 30 years back, we got an energy audit done for my unit. Because I consume a lot of power when we are producing. I used to use about 120 kVA of power. But I brought down by about 30 kVA by using energy efficient, or redesigning some of our machines and making them, all that kind of thing to reduce the use of energy. Of course, even at home, we say switch off the lights, switch off the fans, switch off the geysers when it's not in use, and all that kind of thing. And even at home, even for cooking, we have more efficient burners. You keep looking at things which to use less and less energy for doing the same job. Ultimately, that is all there is. Earlier we used to have a 60-watt bulb. Today, the same light is being given by a 9-watt LED bulb. Right. So there is work going on everywhere to continuously keep reducing the use of energy. And this is one of the main jobs of an operations person, operations manager. Keep continuously looking at your operations and how to make it efficient in energy usage. Right. Whether it is production or operations or an office layout or using the timings in your own office, it could be for in many ways to ensure that you are efficient use of energy. So improving energy efficiency practices and sourcing renewable energy should improve the environment. Renewable energy, of course, today we know that we are going very aggressively into solar power, right? Some of the biggest solar power plants are in Gujarat itself, right? That they are in Gujarat, right? So unfortunately, we are a tropical country where we have no abundant solar power available throughout the year, most parts of the year. So we should capitalize on that, rightfully. So the government is also promoting that in many weak ways. And that has to be there. So even in your own workplace, you must see how to use renewable energies, whether it is wind energy or solar energy. There are different ways to use, even using rice husks, all the waste which can be transformed into, put back into generating energy. Next concept is design for environment and design for disassembly. What it means is that basically your product, every product has what is called as a product life cycle. See, a product has what is called as a product life cycle. What happens when the product life ends? What does it do? Now, you must have seen in some, probably in some of these movies, English and other movies, huge dump yards where these used cars, meaning the cars are dumped. In fact, I know, in fact, I was seeing one movie somewhere where, or I don't know, an incident where a youngster goes, what they do in those huge yards. You can go and pick up any part from any car. This is in US by paying only $10. They are not charging you for the cost of the part. That is up to you, luck. And those yards are having thousands and thousands of dump vehicles, one on top of the other, in total disarray. It's a huge waste. Nobody knows what to do with it, Even some, the waste management is so bad there, and they waste so much. So this guy goes, $10 he goes, and then it's a luck, he spends a whole day there and then picks up parts which he needs. And then finally he makes a car out of that itself. So what happens to a product once it finishes the thing? How is it disposed of? Today we are talking about e-waste. You are aware of what is the e-waste. What happens to your computer, right? Once it goes on. Now the computer has not only the plastic parts, it has the LCD, it has a lot of circuitry. And today's circuitry has a lot of materials which are there. There is, of course, obviously lead because which is used for solder. But apart from that, some of the components have very fine elements. Could be selenium, it could be, all kinds of exotic materials are there. People are now trying to extract from those materials from those e-wastes. And there are companies which do that now, you see. Now, how do you dispose of that? What happens to that your equipment at the end of the cycle? Of course, now we have what is called as a buyback offers. Actually, buyback offers, they don't do anything. They just give you some 500 rupees or 1,000 rupees for a item to buy back. But they send it to a scrapyard in any case after that. They don't do anything. They don't refurbish or sell. But at the same time, there are people who do refurbishing old ones and then selling. So what do you do? How do you take that? So that approach of design for disassembly is an effective sustainable manufacturing approach to reduce environmental impact during the product's life cycle or after the product's life cycle. Oh, it was roughly done about an hour now. So to design for disassembly or deconstruction is to create products with the intention of minimizing value loss at the end of the cycle so that can be reused and then, like as I said, it could be refurbished, recirculated, etc. Now the next topic which I can give you, it's at 7:30, exactly 1 hour from the time we started. We can take a 5-minute break. Okay. I will.
Yes, sir.
So 7:05, I'll get back.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Because this is a different topic. So I'll keep that on. I'll come back to you. am bank. Where is Mr. Divyang?
I'm here as well, sir.
Yes, Didi, you are still traveling?
Yes, sir. So it's totally jammed. Roads are jammed, sir.
Oh, ho, ho, ho. When will you reach? What time will you reach Bharuch?
I have no idea, sir. Yesterday, I reached around 10:30 while I left my office at 6:30.
My God, you
Yes,
do
sir.
that every day?
Exactly. That's what has been happening since 1st of July, sir. Actually,
Uh-huh.
my office got shifted from certain area to certain area, and now it's not that distant from the previous one. It's only 12 kilometers, but the traffic and all and traveling timing is very unsuitable for me, sir.
Uh-huh. That bad, I know.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think we'll start. Let Divyang, because we'll get this thing anyway.
Yes, yes, sir.
Now the next topic is on ethics and POM, standing for Production and Operations Management. Now, one thing we must understand that whatever we do in our life, there are one is something which is acceptable in society, let us say, and one is the law. Correct. Ethics does not mean that it is legal in that sense. Ethics is like when we talk about ethics or ethical behavior, it's more which is an acceptable behavior within the cultural norms of the people or the civilization in which you are in. Sometimes ethics can be different in different situations and in different places in which people are. Ethics can impact our daily life. Ethics also impacts business, and what we are today talking about, ethical considerations in operations management, is a subset of the business ethics. So when we say ethics of business, let's talk about the Contract Act in business. What does the Contract Act says? That there is an offer, there is an acceptance, and then there is a consideration. There are three things. As long as you made an offer and I have accepted that offer, for which there is a consideration in terms of the price, delivery, time, all that kind of thing. That is the consideration. Then a contract is binding on the two parties. But let us say that for some reason there is a small loophole in that particular contract, due to which, taking advantage of that and with an intention to create loss to the other party, whether it is a buyer or seller, say one of them does not perform the contract, then is it ethical? Now, I would say that I have personally seen that in some business communities, many a times there are not even a written contract. You know, if you see in the good old days when there are two people who do business, they will both put their hand one on top of the other. They will cover their hand with a cloth and they will talk. And each one has given an offer, the other has accepted, and the consideration has been defined. Now that contract is binding according to that particular method of doing business. For quite long that this was considered, and come what may, whether the prices have gone very high, very low, or whatever it is, the parties were bound by that contract and would perform that contract. That was the kind of ethics which prevailed in business. Till such time as outside elements came into this environment and started looking at the loopholes and then started taking advantage of the loopholes to not to perform that contract. Then, although you can say that that was unethical, but it was legal because there was a loophole in the law. You go to the court of law, it is proven that whatever the other person has done, although it is unethical, is legal. Now, why I'm trying to tell you this is that there is a difference between legal and ethics. So there are certain ethics which we need to observe and ensure that we perform in our operations. I put a few of them. It's not exhaustive as such, but whatever I thought I could, since there is no clear definition on this, so I said I'll put on this one. And I'll just take one by one and try to explain what is ethical in this. The first one, let us say, is customer safety. Now, when we say customer safety, what do we mean? I am selling a goods manufactured to through an intermediary. Of course, it has, most consumer products reaches the customer after 2-3 hands. A wholesaler, a retailer, whatever, all that, and then reaches. You do not know who the customer is. So you can say, I don't care whether the customer, what happens to the customer, because I'm not in any way related to him. It's not a B2B operation where I know the customer. Now, due to your defective design or a defective manufacturing or a defective material which is being used, the customer safety is impacted. Either if the customer is injured because, let us say, there is a burr, in the finishing of the product, which I know that if I, if the one in, let us say, 10 customers, when they try to use it, they may get hurt. Now, I am trying to probably save some time of not polishing it and sending it over. Chalta hai, we don't know who the customer is, get it. Not that everybody is going to get hurt. Now, that is not an ethical behavior. When you know or anticipate or knowingly you allow something to happen, which will impact the safety of the customer, although the customer may not be directly known to you, is not impacting you. It is not in the contract to say that, this has to be done this way. Then that is not an ethical behavior. In fact, you have to see that in whatever things which you produce or give out, like let us say you're in a hotel or a hospital, you know very well that that plate is not fully washed. After all, how will the customer know that it's not washed properly? You can continue to serve with him. He may get not that if he has a very good stomach, nothing will happen to him. If he has a weak stomach, probably he will get a stomach upset. Now, knowingly doing this kind of a thing is wrong. So you must ensure that your practices are in such a way that all your plates are, let us say, are fumigated. Put in a steam thing after washing, and then they are air dried, and then you take out the plate for serving. Then you developed a process in such a way that you ensure customer safety. So whatever you do in your operations, you must ensure that in no way that it impacts or affects the customer in some form, some way or the other. That is primary number one. Number two is employees' own safety. The Factory Act in India of 1948, of course, now many changes which have happened in the Factory Act, specifies many things about safety. But at the same time, a lot of things are not explicitly told. But you know that under the certain conditions of work, the layout or let us say, the light which is provided, or the equipment which you are giving, the tools which are the employee uses, may not be safe when they are doing repetitive work. It is for you as a manager to anticipate and ensure, see that sometimes it could be some chemical which is used in the process for you, which if the employee he inhales continuously, is going to not get affected immediately, but maybe after so many years. See, we have, let us say, in one of the processes, we use something which has, let us say, a traces of chromium. And I'm sure you must have seen in some, even in movies, if you've seen that English movie called Erin Brockovich, where Julia Roberts is there in that movie, it is all about how one of the local industry there has been using, I think, one of the variants of dichromate something thing, chemical, which has affected the health of a good number of people who have worked in their factories. And that particular unit or organization tries to hush up the whole thing. Of course, most of you may know what happened to Union Carbide when that incident happened, where some people lost their lives too. Now, when you have a process which can impact a person's safety, immediate or at a later date, or affect in any way, you need to ensure that you put sufficient safety measures. Like in this case, if something chemical is used, of course, today you have masks which will ensure that the person does not inhale. So it is up to you to not only provide the mask, but to ensure that the person uses the mask while the person is working. So employees' safety may not be defined in law in so many ways, but ethically, as a manager, you have to ensure that see which are the processes, which are the things which will affect immediately or in the long run and ensure the safety. Quality. I would rather say quality and reliability. There are two aspects of quality, quality and reliability. Although I have not made, I should have added that word. The manufacturing process which you use, assuring the quality has many, many dimensions. But simply put, I would say quality is only the totality of all the features which can be consistently produced. The word used is consistent. How do you consistently produce a product? It means that let's say the length or a breadth or a hardness of any particular thing, it is uniformly so along with the product, so that the customer which is using the product gets the same usage through the life of that particular product. One of them may not is very good, one of them is very bad. No, that's not quality. There is an average performance which is expected, and you deliver it consistently across all that which you produce. That is your responsibility to ensure the consistency of product, and you are bound to constantly monitor using either gauges, tools, techniques, statistical process tools, whatever they are, to ensure that consistency of the process. Also, I'll tell you one simple incident which happened in my house. I had asked one person about 3 months back to come and fix a blind. One of the things which you write, to put a blind. The earlier blind, that it had broken in one place at the one spot, and this guy who came to work, he just says, so what, I'll just take attach the two ends by using, I think I saw that he has used tried to burn it and then attach it and then fixed it and went away. He took 450 rupees also for the job, whatever he did, went off. Within 3 days, that thing again broke, because that joint, what he has done, it stood for a few operations, but then because it is not done properly, it just gave way. I go and complain to that person. Months together, weeks together, nobody turns up. Then one day I went to their place and I told him that, see, you have to send somebody to sit. Then I found one new recruit boy who is there, and I called him, can you do this job? He says, yes, I've seen, and I know I can do it. I've seen how they do it, and I know I can do it. I brought him, and then he immediately identified, this is what is broken. I have to remove it and then refix this whole thing. But there will be a little shortage. Is it all okay for you? I said, okay, it doesn't really impact it. And he laboriously did everything and then went. This is what the first person should have done. He knows that thing will not stick and it will give way. Mind you, he has done a job, did the job and went. No, that is not ethical. Whereas this boy, although he was just not even fully trained, in fact, I gave him a very good recommendation note to the boss saying that Nayan, name of that boy who came, he may be a new recruit, but then this is the boy whom you should encourage. Because you see, he could understand the customer's problem and how it will happen and how he his workmanship will be so reliable that it will last for long, not just do something and then go. Because many a times people do things like this, especially when the customer is not seeing, after all, anyway, it will work for some time. No? All right. You have to ensure reliability in what you do. That is why I said ethics means ensuring quality and reliability. Another dimension of operations management is materials recyclability. Even earlier we saw that refuse, reuse, recycle. These are the three dimensions of the environmental thing. Recycling is very, very, very important. Even at home, we do, whatever we use, I do that in a lot of things. Even if I get some covers, I don't throw away all of them. I keep it nicely, fold it, stack it, keep it, so that when I need it for something else, I use the same thing and put it back. It's not that I'm trying to be cutting cost, but the fact that, why should I waste? Otherwise, I'll put everything dump in the waste. Reuse is something which is, again, even in your, not impacting the quality again. Waste disposal. Now, this is extremely important in every organization, more so in medical organization. Medical has, in normal thing, you have wet waste, dry waste, but in medical, you have also biological waste. Biological waste can be hazardous. It can create diseases to others. It has to be properly disposed of. It has to be incinerated. So it is not like in the days, nobody is seeing, so they just throw it somewhere. Some people may get hurt if it is not disposed properly. So if it is, some glass is broken, generally what we do, we not only just don't dump it into the material waste, we put it in a cover and nicely close it and ensure that the person handling it doesn't get hurt while he's handling. So there is an ethics in waste disposal to ensure that it is safe for the person who is handling the waste also. Pollution and contamination. Contamination is something which can happen by using adulterated, let us say, materials. Of course, today you have, especially in foods, there is a lot of adulteration that takes place. Similarly, in any other things, adulteration and materials from unknown sources being used. In fact, I had one experience of long back. One of the large companies' operations managers called me saying that some of the component which you have supplied is defective. So I went to there. I said, I want to see the shop floor where it has been. So I went there, and he showed me the items which have been defective, which was lying, and he kept away. One look at it, I said, okay, there are one or two which are actually produced by us, but 90% of whatever is there is not produced by us. He said, how do you say that? I said, no, I can show you. I'll show you. Come, I'll tell you exactly how it is. No, we buy only from you. We don't buy from anywhere else. Now, that is a lie. Now, I'll tell you why it is a lie. He is an operations manager. What he has done is, the moment there is a shortage of the item, he doesn't take the trouble of going and getting it from, through the proper channel from me. Just to meet that day's production, he would send somebody to the market, local market, buy whatever is available from wherever, and use it so that that day's production is over without mentioning that it is got from outside. Now, I'll tell you, that is, I wouldn't say illegal, that is unethical. And maintaining that he has not done it so. Now, he has done it because he wants to meet that day's production targets and things like that. But because he has bought locally without knowing what the the quality of goods which he is buying, things have become defective, and then maintains that it is supplied by the regular supplier. So similarly, like these are very serious matters when it comes to, let's say, in the medical or hospitality industry, right? So, or knowingly, some processes which generate pollution, allowing it to happen without not attending to it immediately. Repetitive tasks. Now, in many organizations, we have repetitive tasks, and it is up to the manager to ensure that you automate these repetitive tasks. Now, it is not from the view of saying that after all the workman will do it, or at least provide dies, fixtures, tools to ensure that you make the repetitive tasks easier. It may not be in any manual, but then it is up to you to ensure that that is done. Stress in workplace. Of course, any person who is working 8 hours a day will have some kind of, stress. It could be from ergonomics, from the way the person is sitting. It could be from light. It could be from many things, concentration that is needed. So as a manager, you must provide some, you can say, gaps in the work, relieve them by, say, maybe some music, good lighting, all that kind of thing which are there to ensure that talk to the employees. Sometimes the stress can be not brought in from their home to the work. Restrictive company cultures. Some cultures do not, meaning the cultural norms of the company may be restrictive, so that you need to see and then fight for the employees' rights in that. Employment policies, fluctuation in working hours. See, nobody likes, of course, you can ask. Flexible working hours now is a norm in many places, but then that flexible, you should be able to understand why the employee needs those flexible hours, or help him in trying to work effectively by taking care of his own personal needs. In many times, I have to go and pay my son's fees. Otherwise, he'll be stuck off rolls or something like that. So at least you tell him, okay, do that in half an hour and come back. Things like this are done. That there is an ethics in that. Yeah. Consumption of energy, of course, as we saw that, wastage, and more so wastage of energy, is criminal. And that is where you'll have to work out. So this, and you can be many other dimensions in ethics in operations, but these are some of the ones which I could think of. Then we have preparing for the future. Now, when we are operating, it is not that, as I said, that currently we are taking care of all these things, what we saw in the previous slide, but we need to also see how you will have a sustainable, improved working environment as you go by. So preparing for the future, anyway, I could think of some of these which are there here. Supply chains, you see, this is one, in my own personal experience, I have always found that a strong supply chain helps you in your business. See, as an operations manager, of course, normally what happens in large organizations, the purchase and is done by a separate department, and you're not at all involved in the supply chain. But in medium and small organizations, it is you are equally involved in from the vendor. You need to have your vendor as your partner. That is very, very important. In fact, most of the people do not do that. But partnerships include partnerships with vendors. Partnership not in the sense of business partnerships. I'm saying that working arrangements in such a way that he trusts you and you trust him to ensure that he delivers timely, quality and quantity for your operations. Build adaptive supply chains. Manufacturers need smart, connected and responsive supply chains for increased business resilience. So whenever you need to suddenly increase volumes, or you have difficulty and you're not able to produce, in both such cases, building such supply chains will help you, because they would understand your problem and support you in that. Challenging the status quo. In any operations for that matter, it is routine, and you're bored day in and day out, you're doing the same thing. He says, what is there to, the challenge is in innovating and constantly trying to do some small improvements. In the Japanese calls it Kaizen. Kaizen is the continuous improvements, small improvements. You must take up on your own some projects, small things, and say, yes, I want to improve this. I want to do something different in here. And work towards that. That keeps you active as well as, creates enthusiasm in your work, enthusiasm in the workforce, brings in new practices, processes, and keeps you ready to agile for in the future. Develop data-driven decision making. Now, this is something extremely, extremely important. Most of us tend to make decisions, I would say take decisions or make decisions based on what we have done earlier. Last time I saw what abhi bhi aisa hi hai, this problem has happened, so I will do the same thing. No, it doesn't work like that. Because in whatever you do, when what can be measured, there's a golden rule which says that what can be measured must be measured. And what is measured should be analyzed. And what is analyzed must be acted on. These are the golden rules. Data, data, data. Whatever you do, collect data, collate data, analyze data, interpret data, use the data for decision making. So data used for decisioning must be clean, consistent, and reliable. Of course, some of the most, you see, even if when you go to your doctor, who is a regular doctor, he is all the time seeing, he is not just giving you. A good doctor will look at all your past records, see the trend on how is it happening, and then based on your current many other factors, he will take a decision and give you a. So similarly, why not the same thing in the workplace, right? You have the records, you analyze the total records, and then based on that and what you take the actions. Some of the most advanced manufacturers are gaining rich consumer insights through today, that what we call as the IoT or Internet of Things. Their IoT is embedded in many products, which gives out data, which is collected and use for improvements on the products itself. Easiest example is in automobiles, aeroplanes, any of them, they generate enormous amount of data, and the data is available to the manufacturer himself, although he may not be there at that point, always on there. But this data is available, and then you build it, the product in such a way that you have this data made available to you on a continuous basis. Reskill, upskill, and embrace fresh talent. See, this is one thing. It's a knack, I would say, rather than, of an operation, even within among the manpower. Like I was just telling you about this boy, Nayan. What I did after that day, this just about 3-4 days back, I called up his boss. Now, I did not have done this, I just called up his boss and told him, see, look here, you are saying this boy has only newly joined. He has never done this job before. But when I asked him, he said he will come. Yes, I've seen how his colleague has done, and I'll come and do it for you. Now, number one, you see the boy's initiative. Then I told him how he fixed it in spite of that small shortage. I said, that is the ingenuity, interest, ingenuity. Improving on, inquisitiveness, that how to do it. Now, many a times, even among your workforce, you'll find that some people they may be very junior, but they are all the time inquisitive to do things. Now, these are the people you must look out for. Talent. In fact, just the day before yesterday, I went and saw the movie called Rocketry. No, sorry, yesterday. If you see the entire movie, it is about the main character who is all the time spotting talent. A must movie, you must watch, ISRO, that Rocketry, Nambi Narayan episode, which is there. So reskill, upskill, and embrace fresh talent. They need the technical skills to own, understand, and drive change with technology. Of course, you must embrace new technology, spot fresh talent, reskill the existing talent, and retrain the manpower. Focus on customers' experience. Customer, and customer. That is what it is when it comes to operation. You may not be directly looking at the customer, but you must try to keep getting feedback from the customer all the time. So manufacturers can prepare for the future by ensuring that every digital information is grounded in the benefits of the end-use customer, that you are able to get that and constantly eliciting the customers and using that in the operations and the processes. This is another 15 minutes. I think that's about all, 10-15 minutes, and we'll finish for the day. In the operations, apart from ISO 9000, which is a system certification, for environmental certification, we have for environmental quality or environmental certification, there is a set of standards called ISO 14000 series of standards. So the ISO 14000 is a set of standards created to help companies around the world reduce their adverse impact on the environment. It is a framework for improved and more environmentally conscious quality management systems by the organizations, whether it is large or small. Many industries, many type of organizations impact environment in many big ways. Like in the good old days, if you see those kind of tall chimneys where, like if it's let us say a thermal power plant, most polluting, cement plants, steel plants, paper plants which pollute the water resources, printed circuit board manufacturing units, lot of electronic units which are there, textile units, hospitals, restaurants. In fact, long back, in one of my visits to Germany, there is a river Rhine which flows from Hamburg, from Frankfurt and all that, and then finally empties in Hamburg at the sea. There are a number of chemical factories, beer and the producing units across that entire route of. But the Germans will very proudly say, you can just take the water from the river and drink. Now, can you say that about any of our rivers? In fact, our own Ganges was so polluted, right? The pollution in the Ganges, only now, of course, it is a lot of things have been done to ensure that the pollutions have come down. But still, it is not that we can just take a water and drink. If you can really come to that standards, then you have implemented ISO 14000 in all the units which are adjoining or discharging water into those rivers. We have the habit, sometimes, something doesn't work. When nobody is looking, just, after all, only I am the person polluting. It's not going to have any great impact. No, that will not work. In fact, in many big cities, the lakes are dying because the discharge of effluents, household wastage is all going into the rivers. The rivers die. In fact, recently, I don't know, a couple of years back, in Bangalore, there was a lake called Bellandur Lake, big lake in one of the IT areas. One of the days that the lake itself started fuming, a lot of fumes came, and it was froth and fumes were coming out of the lake. Obviously, somebody was discharging hazardous effluents into some pipelines, which are now coming and discharging it into the lake. Mind you, it is happening in a city as populated as Bangalore, which is happening. So, all these units must ensure that they process all their water and all other effluents in such a way that they do not discharge it into the environment. And those which are processed, should be able to be used. In fact, in one of the largest PCB manufacturing plants we have in Mysore, India's largest PCB manufacturing. It's a 100% export unit, which was started by Indal and then taken over by an Austrian company called AT&S. Now, PCB plants use a lot of water, and that water contains copper, chromium, all kinds of hazardous chemicals, which are used during etching, and acids, all that, which are used for etching of the plates. Mind you, this unit is so much compliant for ISO 14000. Not only that, much higher than that. Their entire water is recycled and they're used for gardening of their huge plant. It's a huge plant. And they grow their own vegetables, which is again used by their canteen, for consumption by their own employees. So imagine that what confidence they must be having, correct? Correct. So that is a level of confidence, like what I told you about taking the water from the Rhine to drink. Here, you have vegetables grown with the effluent water, processed effluent water, which is now being consumed by their own employees. So this set of standards is framed to ensure that you are compliant with environmental standards and do not discharge any influence in the environment. The key elements of the ISO are the environmental policy. That is important. You have to frame the policy depending upon the type of industry which you are in. What all the things which you will do to ensure that effluents are taken care of? Right. What is your policy? How do you plan for implementing those policies? How do you implement and the processes for operation? Checking periodic checks and corrective action in that. And there is a management review or audit of periodically. Usually it is once in 6 months. It could be 3 months also of the audit. Audit obviously means again taking all the readings and ensuring that everything is within acceptable limits. So the goal of ISO 14,001 is a standard, 14,000 is with a series of standards in that family. So ISO 14,001 is to create a EMS, the environmental management system capable of identifying and controlling the environmental impact of its activities, products, and services, and continually improving its environmental performance. It's not only sufficient that you adhere, but you also continuously improve the processes. So the core policy commitments are prevention of pollution, that is number one. Continuously improving your processes to ensure that you are improving. And thirdly, compliance. Of course, in all our state, the pollution control board, you must have heard of, pollution control board is a state subject. It's not a central subject. It's a state subject. And there are states have their own, like in our state, which is called Karnataka State Pollution Control Board. Similarly, I'm sure Gujarat will have Gujarat State Pollution Control Board. But they all draw their things from the center. Again, certain laws, environmental laws, which are framed by the center. These are local rules which are there adhered to by the pollution control. How strict they are, that is very important. Most of the cases, what happens is what happens to inspectors in factory or many other places, that should not happen. And in fact, the other day I was watching a Malayalam movie, because I do understand a little bit about food adulteration, how one strict officer ensures that the entire system, corrupt system, is cleaned up. So you need to have good enforcement or compliance to ensure that the system works, and you can drink the water from the river or eat the vegetables grown with the treated effluents of the. So that is in short about the environmental quality systems, and it is very, very important to do that. Okay. So I think we are almost finished for the day on this. Okay. And you have any questions we can discuss, otherwise we can.
Sir, P/OM आपने लिखा था, तो what is the P?
No, production and operations.
Okay, production and operation. Okay.
Production and operation.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
We'll meet on Sunday again.
We'll meet on Sunday again. Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Good night, sir.
Now, is it Sunday better or weekday like this is better?
Sir, Sunday, mainly the routine work is to be done, I think.
Acha.
Sunday we are no hurry to do this and that and that.
No, because what happened was last Sunday, three
Yes,
of
sir.
you wanted, see, only 3-4 are quite regular, and all of you wanted a.
Yes, sir. All of a sudden, some guests come from Punjab, and I have to be with them.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
that
See, for
that's
me,
why
it
I have
doesn't
to.
make a, not much of a difference as long as I am free, So I said I
Yes, sir.
accepted.
So nice of you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Thank you. Good
See
night.
you, Divya. Good night. Yeah.